All right, welcome back here on the South Florida Blitz here on FloridaHSFootball.com, and then, of course, on the FloridaHSFootball.com social media handles here. Josh Wilson here, Marty Pallman here, and we have got the goat of all goats in the Sunshine State, the one and the only Larry Blustein. And Larry, welcome to the show here, and appreciate you taking a few minutes of your busy schedule. I know you're always a busy man here, but I know South Florida, it's things are just it's still I've been cranking up here in the last few weeks, and it's only going to get even more exciting as we go through. But I know for a fact that that you got that Chaminade Madonna Miami Central game. I know that was like the game of the year down there, and I mean. Let's talk about that game for a moment here. I mean, what was it that really kind of like what was the biggest thing that helped seal the deal for Chaminade Madonna to beat Miami Central there at a very tough environment at Travis Powell?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, Marty. Thanks, Josh, for having me in. And I'll tell you what, though, that game was one of those contests, probably something that a lot of these kids and everybody watching around the country, even though it was 2 hours late because of the lightning and the rain, it turned out to be one of those contests where it just was a game that lived up to its billing. Chaminade's skill position against the offense and defensive lines for Central went back and forth. Seemed like the game would go in the favor of Chaminade, and then all of a sudden Central came on and ran the ball extremely well and played the contest, just like everybody thought it would be. And telling you don't get better football in the country. You mentioned in the state, but how many other games can you or around the country that you could have close to 14 Power 5 kids, 9 through 12 grade, and I don't think any. I mean, you could have Mater Dei maybe in Bosco or one of those programs, but it was such a high level of football. Attracted a lot of college coaches. North Carolina was there, FSU was there. A lot of the programs that weren't playing that week or were playing on Saturday. So it only kind of kicked off what you guys said. This season's moving along really fast, and over the next 2-3 weeks, you're going to have some really amazing matchups that are going to dictate region and obviously the district.
No, absolutely there. And, and then, another team that that we talked about, and I think a lot of people talk about this team because they're not certain what to make of St. Thomas Aquinas this year. I mean, it's kind of like, it's been like kind of like 1 week you get one St. Thomas Aquinas team. And then of course, this past week you get a whole different St. Thomas Aquinas team that just really like flexes their muscle against Treasure. Cause what's kind of fill in people, what's kind of going on there? Because it's kind of like, I'm sure I've seen comments like what is going on there?
Well, a little bit of a transition, new quarterback, and but between you, I, and everybody listening, they'll be back at state. There's no one that's going to stand in their way. They're just a program that wins because of the fact that they have depth of superior coaching. Yeah, they won't be touched the rest of the way. It's obviously if they play, we all think they'll probably end up playing Edgewater for the state title. And if it comes down to that, that's be a really good game. But yeah, they're 4-time defending state champions for a reason. They're loaded at the skill positions. Their offensive line is big. Their defensive line is quick. You got to give a lot of credit to Coco for coming down and doing what they did. And they by all rights should have won the game. As we see, there's a lot of growing pains in the program, but they'll be back. They'll be right back in Tallahassee and playing for another 3M state title.
Hey, Blue, it's good to talk to you and see you at a place other than the state championships. I don't know that's where we normally see you every year, but, you were talking about Aquinas. What about Norland? I mean, this is a team that is undefeated. I mean, I know we don't always talk about them in Miami-Dade County, but it seems like this Norland team went down to Lakeland and won their opener against that Lakeland team, and they're pretty much rolling right now.
Yeah, highest scoring team in the state of Florida. this is no mistake. They brought in 19 kids. Of those 19 kids, 14 of them are Division I. 10 of them have either pledged or are going to sign with Power 5 schools. They're loaded. One of the best junior quarterbacks in the state from a high school standpoint. Obviously, Enio Yapor may not play at that high level of college just because he's 5'11", but he averages 395 yards of total offense every game, close to 400, because he runs the ball, he throws the ball. They got superior wide receivers, probably one of the largest offensive lines you're ever going to see in a high school level. They average 316 pounds across the front. They're stacked. Defensively, they're as good as any. I think they beat Booker T and they beat Central. That's just, having watched all those games and all those teams, I don't see anybody stopping Norland. They're a juggernaut. I mean, they go up to Lakeland, as you mentioned, and put 609 yards up against the Lakeland team that's was a defending state champion. So, yeah, it is a team. We watched them last week. Obviously they've resorted to now playing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in South Florida because of the stadium situation in Miami-Dade. Like, we have 2 games coming up tomorrow. Homestead gets a chance to play on a Wednesday. But that game against American was just like, it was like a JV team against a varsity team. It was 35-0 at the quarter. It could have been 90. It really could have. But Daryl Heidelberg kind of made a lot of switches and went to a couple of the reserves, 9th and 10th graders, in the second half. Yeah, guys, this is a complete team. They play Booker T. They have a week off this week and then play Booker T next week. And then they got Central. And that's basically for the district title, probably the number 1 seed in the region. So, I mean, it's, because here's the fact, you have Cardinal Gibbons and American Heritage, which is always a good game. And as you mentioned, the winner is going to win the district title. You have to look at a Heritage team and what a job Mike Smith's done. I mean, they lost big-time kids last year like Brandon Ennis to Ohio State. They lost one of the best senior running backs in the state last year who's playing a significant role with the Miami Hurricanes now. And then they lost several kids in the defensive secondary. And they still came back, and they beat St. John's to open the season. They stuck right with Chaminade for all 4 quarters, got down early and stayed. I mean, they'll beat Gibbons. Gibbons is just not the Cardinal Gibbons of old. They're a good team. Matt DeBuck, as you know, Josh, does a good job, but they don't have the horses. They don't have the horses that they've had in the past. It'll be nice. It'll be a good game, but I think Heritage kind of prevails. But, guys, I think the game of the week, and everybody's kind of not really talking about it statewide, is Coconut Creek and Chaminade. This would be the best time for Chaminade to get knocked off. They're going up against a team. Obviously, Chaminade has more skill kids than Ohio State. But that being said, Coconut Creek on both sides of the ball, offense and defensive line, controlled Plantation when they were averaging 59 points through the first 3 games. They controlled Ely last week, and Ely hadn't lost a regular season game in almost 2 years. This is a team that's been building since the 9th grade. All these kids started out in 9th grade. I mean, they're a team that will control you on the line of scrimmage, and they'll control Chaminade on the line of scrimmage. I mean, they're bigger, they're faster, but the one thing that they might not be able to match up with is the skill kids. I mean, the quarterbacks, the running backs, all the wide receivers that Chaminade has, but they're going to punch back. And I'll tell you what, they're going to be a force when the 3M comes around, because they've got that type of talent that when they go up against the St. Thomas Aquinas, they won't back down. And I'll tell you what, Johnny Sloan has done just an outstanding job, and not enough people understand how good this team is. They went up to Gainesville, Georgia, to a place where Gainesville has won 55 of the last 56 games. Took them down to the wire. It was 30-22. And I'm telling you, they came back and they took Plantation to task. I mean, nobody does that with Plantation. They did. So that's a game that a lot of people aren't watching this week, but that's the game I'm going to. A lot of people are going to opt to go and watch Heritage and Gibbons, but I'm telling you, I mean, even though that Chaminade will prevail, it's going to be a better game than people think.
No, absolutely.
Who scores more points, Norland or the Dolphins right now? I think the
Yeah,
Dolphins
well, I think the Dolphins got them edged out now, and but
That's a good one, Marty. I give it to
Yeah.
you on that one. I
When-
did think about that Dolphins scoring 70 down there.
amazing.
yeah, well, you know what? I mean, after 40 years of mediocrity, it only serves that the Dolphins would start coming alive, and yeah,
right.
you know, I mean. But the one thing is too, when you look at a New Orleans type of team, they're just so quick and they could gut you so many ways. And with that offensive line, they kind of clear out the running game, and they provide protection for any Oyapor. But you know, you take a look at all the classifications. There's not a 4M team in the state like Columbus. Columbus will beat you in so many different ways. They may not be as high scoring, but their defense is crazy. When they play Palmetto, we were there on that Saturday. They yielded 50 total yards, 22 on the ground.
Wow.
Dave Dunn does just such a great job. I mean, I say I'm penning them back in. There's nobody in South Florida. They'll crush Western. You know, Western is just not as good as everybody thought. They lost their starting running back at the beginning of the year. They just, nobody can compete with Columbus, and Columbus will get the state. And then we talked about St. Thomas, and I think 2M. I think New Orleans could pull and I don't think it's a surprise because they're really good. And but we'll find out a lot about them, you know, next week against Booker T and the week after against Central. And then Chaminade pretty much has printed their rings up again. They're going for their eighth consecutive state appearance. That's stupid.
Wow.
I mean,
It's
most
crazy,
people,
Blue. It's
Huh?
crazy.
It is.
most
crazy.
people,
Yeah.
most people, guys, they dream about getting there once. And Damian Jones and his team kind of live there. The only team we figured that would push back this year would be Cardinal Newman, and they just lost their starting quarterback for the year, and that's going to be kind of tough. But even Cardinal Newman last year lost to them, you know, 35-7. Miami's True North Classical, who a lot of they're only 4 years old, and that school, they're 5-0. They beat Naples First Baptist last week, defending state 1S champions. And then they got Bradford County in 2 weeks. You know, they're not backing down on who they play. Wow. And yeah, they're a team that maybe for the future is going to continue to close the gap on Chaminade. But right now, guys, I don't see anybody else beating Chaminade short of like nobody. I mean,
you're right there, Blue. And real quick, just real quick, give everybody where you're, you know, where to find you at, because I know you're in so many places, and I know they find you on the sidelines, but I know the social media, if they're sleeping under a rock, if they're not following you, I'd be shocked that the people watching are not following you.
Right. We see a lot of games. We'll see 4 more this week, which is good. You know, living in an area where you have limited stadiums, you get a chance to see a lot of these teams play basically every day. I mean, there was even a game this evening. Dr. Kropp lost to South Broward, and South Broward is another team. Don't sleep on them. They're 5-0 now too. But we went to the start of that game last week, and then it got shortened by lightning, and then they finished today. Andre Fernandez from the Heralds there. He and I hung out last week when I think it was the only game. I mean, I posted on social media, guys, that I had gone to 12 straight games, and all those games we were either postponed or held up by lightning delay. So I didn't go tonight because I figured if I went, they wouldn't have played. So, but you can find me at Prep Red Zone Florida. We do some really good stuff statewide. If you interested in Dayton Broward County, it's LarryBlustein.com. We have everything, you know, database, rankings, things like that. And then if you want, every Monday night, we have our radio show on WQAM. And Josh, you've been on there quite a few times. And, you know, it's a good show, well listened to. A lot of people you know, love it. And we have guests from, you know, college football players. We've had Mike Norvell. We've had Jim Harbaugh in the past. We get a lot of the college coaches because they love coming on during the spring because they can't come out. So it's their way to kind of sell their stuff, but that's it. And you can see me on Larry Blustein on Facebook, also Twitter. We're on Instagram at our boy Blue. So we're out there, and if you ever need to push kids, that's what we're all about. We try to promote the kids, and Josh, that we put out close to about 150, 200 different kids from around the state every month, free of charge, just to get them out there, so the college coaches who follow us will have a idea of how much talent we do have here in the state.
No, absolutely, Blue, and appreciate you being able to join us here for a little bit, and we'll see you around, and we'll have you on again as we get closer to the playoffs time. So appreciate it, Blue.
I look forward to it, guys. Thanks so much, Marty. Thanks, Josh. We'll talk real soon.
All right.
I appreciate it. That was the one and the only Larry Blustein joining us here on the. Yeah,
we could literally do like 2 hours just with Larry, I think, or with Blue there.
Yeah, no, you're not wwrong there, Marty, yeah. And everything. And I'd be honest with you, it's one of those things. Larry Blustein is he is so knowledgeable on everything, and I mean,
he's been around longer than anybody I know as far as around high school football. And South Florida, man, you can see a lot. Like you said, you can see a lot of different games because they play Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday because of the stadiums issues. There are not a lot of stadiums in Miami-Dade County that can play in. But, well, we don't have our rankings for the week. We'll